The story opens during a fierce battle where a menacing, dark-skinned demon with white hair stands triumphantly over the fallen body of the hero. The surrounding soldiers panic and yell for a retreat, while a young, dark-haired gate guard observes the chaos with a surprisingly calm demeanor, thinking to himself that the main story has not even started yet. His comrades urge him to flee, calling him a gate guard and questioning what he is doing there, but he calmly decides to intervene since it likely will not matter in the long run. The scene then shows him leaping into action, revealing that this seemingly ordinary mob soldier is actually incredibly powerful due to his secret knowledge of the game's world. The narrative then shifts to explain the world's background, revealing it to be the setting of an RPG called Brave of Asterisk, often shortened to Briaz. In this game, players take on the role of the hero, Alan, to combat demons and can also build special relationships with friends. The protagonist, whose name is Silva, explains that this was a game he was obsessed with in his previous life. He remembers working at a demanding company until he died from overwork, only to be reincarnated into the world of his favorite game. He now lives as a simple gate guard in the capital city of Zalencia, a life he finds peaceful and far better than his last one. Silva is shown enjoying his new, relaxed lifestyle. He swaps shifts with his older, more rugged colleague, Modi, and reflects on how wonderful it is to get paid even while slacking off, which feels like a heavenly existence compared to his past life. While at a bustling market, he spots a merchant trying to sell a sword to a young woman with reddish-pink hair. Silva instantly recognizes her as Charles Orland, an important character from the game and his personal favorite. He is filled with joy seeing her in the flesh and is charmed by her naive nature as the merchant tries to trick her with a story about a holy sword. Just as Charles is about to be swindled, another young man named Alan, the game's actual hero, steps in and correctly identifies the sword as a fake. Silva watches the two interact, feeling a bit strange seeing the game's protagonist in person and pondering if Alan and Charles will end up as lovers like they do in the game's story. After Alan and Charles leave together, the frustrated merchant turns to Silva and tries to sell him the fake sword, claiming it can turn anyone into a hero. Silva politely refuses, saying a normal sword is fine for a gate guard like him. He reinforces his personal rule to remain a mob character and not interfere with the main plot. He thinks about how playing Briaz was his only escape from his stressful old life and how much he loves the story and its characters, especially Charles. His goal is to watch the epic scenario unfold from the sidelines. To survive in this dangerous world, he used his game knowledge to secretly train and reach his maximum level early on, but he is adamant about not changing the original story he respects so much. Returning to his post at the gate, Silva is in a noticeably good mood. Modi comments on his excitement, and they make plans to get drinks after work. Their peaceful afternoon is suddenly interrupted by screams and the appearance of a large, winged demon. Silva immediately recognizes this as a scripted event from the game called The Wedge Day, which serves as the trigger for the main story. He knows that in the game, the hero is supposed to handle this attack with ease, and no significant damage occurs. The other gate guards, including Modi, prepare to fight the demon until the hero arrives. Silva understands it is a low-level demon but also knows it is too powerful for ordinary soldiers. He hesitates to get involved, worried about altering the scenario, and watches as Modi is injured in the fight. Angered that his friend was hurt, Silva's resolve wavers when the demon turns and flees into the city. He immediately gives chase, surprising Modi with his incredible speed. Meanwhile, in a nearby forest, Charles has just finished collecting herbs by a stream and is preparing to regroup with Alan. As Silva sprints through the woods after the demon, he comes to an abrupt halt. He sees Charles standing there, a development that shocks him because, according to the game's story, she is not supposed to be in this area at this time. He begins to panic, realizing that this deviation from the script has put his favorite character in mortal danger. Before he can process the situation, the demon emerges from the trees and lunges at the unsuspecting Charles. In that moment, Silva abandons his vow of non-interference. Filled with rage, he draws his sword and shouts at the demon not to touch his beloved Charlie. He unleashes a powerful sword technique, Zalencia's sword style, spinning top, and instantly defeats the monster, saving her life. After sheathing his sword, he rushes to her side, frantically asking if she is okay. He becomes flustered, realizing he has just revealed his true strength. When she asks who he is, he stammers that he is just a gate guard. Charles smiles gently and clarifies that she wants to know his name. Overwhelmed by her cuteness, he introduces himself as Silva. As she thanks him, he comes to the profound realization that his actions have set his life, and the story he treasured, on a completely new and unexpected path. Silva in a state of panic after his unexpected encounter with Charlie. He frantically replays the moment he made a clumsy excuse about guard duty to escape her presence, and he now holds his head in his hands, worrying that defeating a demon in front of her has severely altered the original plot. As he frets, his colleague Modi calls out to him, breaking his train of thought. Modi delivers the surprising news that Silva has been summoned directly by the captain of the elite Holy Guard. Silva is taken aback by this development, and Modi jokingly tells him he will prepare for his funeral, hinting at the captain's fearsome reputation. He then adds with a laugh that the captain is known to be incredibly stern, and he hopes Silva will get away with just a scolding, which does little to ease Silva's nerves. Filled with dread, Silva is escorted to the impressive headquarters of the elite Holy Knights Order. As he walks through the castle corridors, his only wish is to somehow avoid meeting her, the person who summoned him. Inside an office, a woman with long, lustrous silver hair named Elda Snow White reads a report detailing the demon incident. Upon finishing it, she looks up with an intensely eager expression, as if she has just found something incredibly exciting. When Silva is shown into the room, Captain Elda greets him warmly by name. Silva immediately recognizes her from the game Braz, noting her deep blue eyes and recalling that she is a romanceable character known for having one of the best character designs. Silva's bad feeling intensifies, as he suspects that Elda somehow knows about his hidden strength. Elda confirms his fears by getting straight to the point, asking him directly if he was the one who defeated the demon, causing Silva to jump in surprise. Elda explains that there was a report about a demon's corpse that was ripped apart by the signature sword technique, Spinning Top. She reasons that excluding the game's hero, the only person capable of such a feat would be the captain of the Holy Knights Order, who was not present during the attack. She concludes that someone with Silva's immense skill should be serving the country as a knight, but Silva is visibly distressed by her proposition. Trying to protect his peaceful life, Silva attempts to deflect by suggesting the hero might have been the one who did it. Elda dismisses this idea as naive, pointing out that the hero is obligated to report all of his victories, yet the identity of this demon slayer remains unknown. She moves closer and presses him to stop pretending and join the Knight's Order, but Silva adamantly refuses, determined to avoid becoming a central figure in the story. Elda is shocked by his continued refusal and tries to persuade him by listing the benefits of becoming a knight, such as a much higher salary and more perks from the country. However, Silva is more concerned about the potential consequences, envisioning himself being forced to accompany the hero on missions, a role he has very mixed feelings about. He reaffirms that he truly has no desire to become a knight, as he does not want to get too close to the main characters. Elda expresses her disappointment but then ominously declares that if he won't join willingly, she can no longer afford to be picky about her methods, leaving Silva to wonder what she has in mind. Captain Elda's unexpected solution is to present Silva with a letter of admission into the Knight's Order, complete with a forged signature. Silva is horrified, insisting he never signed such a document, and he realizes with dismay that as the captain, she could likely get away with such a forgery. However, Elda laughs it off as a joke and says she can't force people to join against their will, tossing a different document to him. Confused, Silva asks what the new paper is, and Elda explains that instead of forcing him to join, she has a favor to ask. The document contains a picture of a brutish-looking man named Brajo Bertoli, an applicant for the upcoming Knight's Order entrance trials. Elda's request is simple but difficult. She wants Silva to ensure that Brajo does not pass the trials and join their ranks. Silva immediately recognizes the Bertoli name as belonging to a very famous noble family. Elda confirms this but grimly states that Brajo himself is an irredeemable scumbag. Due to his noble status, she cannot simply fail him without risking pressure from the higher-ups, which is why she needs Silva's help. Her plan is to have Silva participate in the entrance trials and fight Brajo in a mock battle. She wants Silva to defeat him so overwhelmingly that it becomes clear to everyone that Brajo is unfit to be a knight. Silva understands that in exchange for this act of sabotage, Elda will stop pressuring him to join the order, and he agrees to the deal. As Silva leaves the headquarters, he sighs, burdened by the troublesome task he has been given. He reflects on the fact that while Brajo is not a character who appears in the main story of the game, his connections to the knights mean that any mistake on Silva's part could still inadvertently affect the plot. He knows he needs to gather information on this unknown character while also being careful to avoid any more major screw-ups. His new resolution is to keep all contact with the main characters to an absolute minimum to protect the original story. Just as he firms his resolve, he is startled to hear a familiar voice call his name, and he turns to see Charlie approaching him. The timing is so terrible that he immediately stumbles over his words, telling her he is happy to see her despite just deciding he should avoid her. Charlie explains that she has been looking for him ever since he saved her and then ran off. Silva apologizes for his abrupt departure, offering a weak excuse about having urgent matters to attend to. His apology is cut short when she asks him a question that makes him freeze. She wants to know how he knew her name back in the forest. Overcome with guilt at the thought of lying to his favorite character, Silva quickly fabricates a story about guarding nobles at a party where he happened to see her name on an attendee list. Charlie seems to accept his explanation and tells him he doesn't need to be so formal with her. She then insists on thanking him properly for saving her life. Silva tries to downplay his actions as part of his duty, but Charlie seriously offers to do anything to repay him, even help with his work. The idea of receiving a request from his beloved favorite character is too much for Silva to resist, and his nerdy instincts take over. Realizing this is a perfect opportunity to conduct his investigation on Brajo without drawing suspicion, he happily agrees to her offer when she asks if she can tag along with him. Charles and Silva arrive in the red light district of the capital city, Silencia, as they search for a man connected to the infamous Bertoli family. Silva explains that the Bertolis are a powerful noble family who gained their high status by giving a large sum of money to the royal family. She also mentions that while the family is well known, there are many dark rumors circulating about them involving human trafficking and illegal drugs, which made it easy to find locations where they are often seen. As they walk through the busy streets, Silva glances at Charles and blushes, playfully asking where he plans to take her in such a scandalous place. A flustered Charles insists she has the wrong idea, and Silva laughs, revealing she was only joking and that she hopes they find their target, a man named Brajo, soon. They know from their investigation that Brajo is a spoiled man who wastes his parents' money on alcohol and wanders around drunk. While they are searching, Charles's stomach growls loudly from hunger, and he feels a little embarrassed. Silva kindly suggests they find a place to eat, and she soon smells something delicious and leads them to a restaurant. Inside, they order hamburgers, and Charles is surprised to see a noble like Silva enjoying such simple food, though he recalls reading about it in the game. He then becomes sad because his own small hands and mouth make it difficult for him to get a proper bite of his hamburger. When Silva notices his struggle, she says she understands and begins eating her own hamburger in a delicate, nibbling way to show him how he might eat it. Charles is completely overwhelmed by how adorable she is in that moment and feels overjoyed. After they finish their meal, Silva asks Charles what his plan is now that it is getting late. Charles is about to suggest he continue the search alone since the area becomes dangerous at night, but he is suddenly interrupted by a loud slam as a group of men burst into the restaurant. The group is led by a menacing blonde man who is none other than their target, Brajo Bertoli. Other patrons whisper about his terrible reputation for starting fights and harassing women. Brajo angrily demands a table, and when the staff nervously informs him that they are full, he erupts in rage. He shouts at them, saying his presence is a blessing to their establishment and that they are ungrateful. After insulting the staff and calling them useless trash, Brajo decides to leave, but he stops when he notices Silva at her table. He approaches her and asks if she is Miss Charles Orland, reminding her that they met at a party. Silva says she does not remember him, which causes Brajo to become visibly angry. With a menacing look on his face, he threatens her, saying that if her memory is that poor, he will take his time to make sure she remembers him from now on. Charles stands protectively in front of Silva and gives Brajo a threatening look, making the nobleman sweat nervously. Brajo quickly changes his approach and starts to flatter Silva, commenting on her renowned beauty and offering to take her away from the tavern to a fancy restaurant so they can get to know each other better. Silva, however, coldly dismisses his advances by stating she is not interested, which secretly infuriates Charles, who can't believe Brajo's shamelessness. Undeterred, Brajo continues to pressure her, offering fine food and expensive liquor. When Silva explains that she is not old enough to drink, he suggests luxurious fruit juice instead, but she firmly repeats her disinterest, which only angers Brajo more. He then turns his attention to Charles and questions if he is Silva's bodyguard. Charles confidently steps forward and confirms that he is, thinking this will give him the perfect excuse to act if Brajo tries anything further, and a surprised Silva goes along with the story. Brajo bursts out laughing, mocking Charles's ordinary appearance and saying he looks more like a commoner than a bodyguard for a noble family. He insults Silva's family by suggesting they must be suffering from a lack of manpower and even offers to lend her one of his own men. This insult makes Charles clench his fist in silent rage, as he feels responsible for Silva being made a fool of and briefly considers killing Brajo on the spot. Brajo then proudly presents his group of menacing bodyguards, boasting that they are elite former holy knights chosen by his family and are fit to serve him. Charles is disgusted by the thought of knights selling their honor to work for such a man, while Silva, annoyed, suggests they should leave. As they begin to walk away, Brajo laughs and taunts them, hoping they make it home safely with such a wimpy protector. Hearing this, Silva stops and turns back with a confident smile, telling Brajo he is mistaken and that his bodyguards are nothing compared to Charles. Charles is deeply touched that Silva defended him, but he also worries that she might have provoked them. His concern proves valid as Brajo's bodyguards immediately surround them, eager to test her claim. Seeing this as a perfect chance to gather information on Brajo's importance to the story, Charles accepts their challenge. In the next moment, Charles has effortlessly defeated the entire group, leaving them battered on the ground. He then calmly demands that they tell him everything they know about Brajo's crimes. The terrified bodyguards quickly confess that Brajo is involved in selling counterfeit drugs, blackmail, and assault, confirming that he is a truly despicable person. The defeated bodyguards reveal that Brajo plans to join the Knights Order and then find compromising information on the captain to seize control for himself. Charles realizes that if Brajo succeeds, he will corrupt the entire order and endanger the townspeople, so he understands he must intervene to keep the story on its proper course. He instructs the bodyguards to tell no one about what happened and to make up a story for Brajo about how they easily defeated him. As they walk away, Silva asks Charles how he became so powerful, remarking that his abilities, including how he once defeated a demon, are far beyond those of a regular soldier. Charles playfully explains that he spent years hiding in the mountains doing tough training against monsters, nearly dying every day. When Silva wonders if she could get strong the same way, she quickly tells Charles he shouldn't have to use such dangerous methods. Charles smiles and tells her he trusts her and that she will get stronger without any of that, and he's willing to bet his life on it. Silva then says she is hungry again and cheekily suggests they eat somewhere else on his treat, as it's a fan's duty to provide for their favorite character. Later, on the day of the entrance trials for the Knights Order, an announcer explains that the first test will be a series of one-on-one mock fights. Charles is determined to stop Brajo from joining and soon finds himself face-to-face with the nobleman. Brajo mocks him, saying his bodyguards told him they had taught Charles a lesson, but he seems confused that Charles doesn't look beaten up. Charles retorts that he could say the same and explains that he used a healing potion from the church, which cost him a lot. Brajo scoffs at him for being poor and then proudly shows off his extremely rare and expensive orichalcum armor, just as an announcer calls both Brajo Bertoli and Silva to the center of the training grounds for their match. Brajo laughs, overjoyed at the chance to fight Silva, and arrogantly asks the examiner what would happen if he were to accidentally kill his opponent. When the examiner says he would be disqualified, Brajo ignores him and charges forward with his sword raised, ready to strike. However, before he can attack, Charles, who is fighting in Silva's place, effortlessly flicks Brajo's sword out of his hand. Charles knows that Brajo's strong armor would repel a weak attack, while a powerful strike could be lethal, which puts him in a difficult situation. Brajo, flustered, claims Silva was lucky and dares Charles to attack him. Charles sarcastically asks if he should attack first, just like Brajo had tried to do. A defensive Brajo calls it a handicap and allows Charles to make the first move. Charles accepts the offer and swiftly strikes Brajo's arm, causing it to go numb so he can't swing his sword. Before Brajo can react, Charles hits him again, sending him stumbling across the ground. Charles calmly comments that it looks like Brajo tripped, but the enraged nobleman insists he has just been lucky and has yet to fight seriously. Realizing he needs to end the fight, Charles decides to stop holding back, and his sword begins to glow with a faint light. The power he is using is called magic enhancement, a technique where one channels their inner mental energy to strengthen themselves or their weapon, making a sword strong enough to cut through iron like butter. While most people live their lives without ever sensing magic, it is an essential skill for heroes to master, as it is needed to combat the naturally tough bodies of demons. With his resolve set, Charles imbues his sword with this powerful magic, preparing to finish the duel once and for all. Charles calmly tells Brajo that he cannot win the duel if he does not attack, but the threat of Charles's glowing sword makes Brajo panic. Stumbling backward, Brajo frantically accuses Charles of being a mercenary hired by bottom-feeder nobles, and the insult directed at Silva's family instantly enrages Charles. Brajo is startled by the sudden change in his opponent's demeanor and becomes terrified when he sees the cold, murderous intent in Charles's eyes. Desperate to save himself, Brajo changes his tactics and tries to bribe Charles, offering to hire him with his own vast fortune. He continues to plead, promising immense wealth that Silva could never afford and even offering him women. As Charles slowly advances, he warns Brajo not to move if he values his life. Undeterred, Brajo makes a final, desperate offer of women who are better than her, which is the last straw for Charles. He explodes in fury, telling Brajo to shut up and to never dare speak Silva's name again. In a flash, Charles unleashes a powerful sword technique, the Zalencia sword style, White Waterfall. The attack is so fast that Brajo can only watch in shock as the magic-infused blade slices cleanly through his prized orichalcum armor, stopping just millimeters from his skin. Stunned that his supposedly indestructible armor was cut so effortlessly, the nobleman's weapon clatters to the ground, and he collapses in defeat, weakly yielding the match. With the duel over, Charles feels a wave of relief, knowing his mission to stop Brajo is complete and all that remains is to report back to Elda. From the stands, the announcer declares Silva the winner, and Silva herself watches with a proud, blushing smile. Back in the arena, however, Charles feels a sense of dread. As he stands over the defeated Brajo, he becomes aware of the chattering crowd and realizes that his overwhelming display of power has likely drawn far too much unwanted attention to himself. After the duel, Charles reports to Captain Elda, who thanks him for successfully stopping Brajo from joining the Knight's Order. Elda promises to gather evidence to have Brajo jailed for his crimes, while Charles is privately satisfied that the man will pay for insulting Silva's family. As a reward for his help, Elda tells Charles she will no longer invite him to join the Knights. Charles is overjoyed at the thought of returning to his peaceful life, but his happiness is short-lived. Elda becomes incredibly upset and throws a tantrum, pounding her desk and demanding to know why he won't join because she wants him by her side. Charles, recognizing this as a spoiled brat Elda game event he wasn't expecting, simply offers her a handkerchief to wipe her tears. After calming her down, Charles leaves and resolves to lay low for a while to avoid more attention. As he walks away, he overhears some knights gossiping about him, noting how his appearance doesn't match the rumors of his strength, and more importantly, they mention another recent demon sighting, the third this month. Back at his post, Charles worries about the increasing demon activity, fearing it signals the main story is starting soon. He is concerned that the attention he has drawn to himself might interfere with the plot and the original protagonist, Alan, who is supposed to bring a happy ending to the world. Suddenly, a figure flashes past him, and a woman with an imposing presence appears. It is the special-grade hero, Kaguya, who calls out to Charles by his alias, Silva. The crowd is shocked to see such a famous hero. Kaya calls Charles her darling and declares she's been looking for him forever. As Charles tries to sneak away to avoid contact with the main character, she grabs him from behind, playfully asking where her dear wife is running off to. Charles remembers that Kaguya is a conqueror the other knights cower in fear. Charles, wearing his battered steel armor, bravely confronts the threat. Elda watches in shock as he mutters some nonsense and then, with a single, beautiful slash of his sword, defeats the demon. The memory solidifies Elda's belief that Charles was given his power to protect the world, which is why she has been so persistent in trying to recruit him. The story then shifts to the next day, where Elda is investigating a gruesome scene. A knight reports that there are 2 female victims who had their blood drained by a cunning demon, likely a level 3 or higher, that left almost no trace behind. Horrified and angry, Elda puts all knights and soldiers on high alert and orders them to expand their search. Most importantly, she sends a messenger to summon gate guard Silva to the headquarters immediately,